Another update for you here this Tuesday afternoon. The latest forecast guidance has come in regarding tomorrow's threat, Wednesday's threat of severe weather. The two rounds coming, one coming in the afternoon, the other one coming overnight. That one is likely going to have a lot more wind with it. And the tornado threat's going to be potentially higher with that because there's higher wind shear. But the latest model guidance coming in a little bit later, and that's concerning because the instability is going to be higher. We're going to go through all the instability, go through a couple of forecast models here, kind of get you better situated and prepared for what's about to head our way. So this will be Wednesday into Thursday, two rounds, both coming in similar fashion. One has a little bit more instability to work with. The other one has a little bit more wind shear to work with. And we are going to have to start looking out for that potential for some of these isolated supercells that may develop on some boundaries out there. So keep that in mind. Also, tomorrow morning we start off with fog. So this is the general track. This is something that we have seen time and time again this summer. It's not normal. It's very unusual. Typically, this pattern is farther to the north and less violent. I'll say that too. Here's storm timeline number one. I've adjusted this a little bit, may need to adjust it even more, so that's why we give you this alert day heads up here, this 48 first alert day. 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., northwest Alabama up towards Lawrenceburg and Waynesboro. I'm going to go behind the model data here in a second. Then I'm going to show you the instability in here in a second as well. 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. from roughly Smith Lake all the way up through Athens, Decatur, Harvest, Monrovia, Madison, Huntsville, Hazel Green, Ardmore, Fayetteville, 3 to 5 p.m. So think about these times and what they mean to you. Some of you will be picking your kids up or waiting in line. Keep in mind, if the weather's imminent and they haven't let school out early, then you may be waiting in line as these storms move through because they will hold the children, your students, until it is safe to let them go. We saw that the other day in the Hartselle school system. 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., northeast Alabama. The color coding doesn't represent the strength. It just shows you the region so you can better visualize, quickly look at the map. Now, I'm going to change the map, but it's not going to look a whole lot different. You will notice the times change. It's pretty much coming through similar. The secondary line may actually move faster. So we're talking 11 p.m. to 2 a.m., Rogersville, Florence, Russellville, northwest Alabama, and then 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. in the middle of your sleep at night from Coleman County all the way up to Fayetteville and Thames Ford Lake, and 3 a.m. to 5 a.m., 60-mile-an-hour winds, hail, lightning, also tornadoes. Tornadoes will be a threat with both lines as they come in. They're just going to come in a little differently. One's going to be more of what we call a line echo wave pattern. The other one's going to be more of a complex of storms. So here's 7 o'clock in the morning. You do have to worry about fog. That will be an issue out there, and it may be an issue through about 9 o'clock in the morning. If you had fog this morning, you're going to encounter it again tomorrow morning, I have a feeling. This boundary pretty much is going to set up right over northwest Alabama, and these storms are going to follow that boundary as they move in from the west track to the east. So here's the first change from what I had earlier on my YouTube channel. This is 1:15 instead of roughly 11 a.m. So there are some timing changes, and that changes things quite a bit as far as the strength of the storms. More energy to work with. It's pretty obvious they're going to be stronger. A lot of lightning, very heavy rain, and then additional wind damage and possible tornadoes. So here's 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Again, this is a little bit later, and this is the trend we have to watch because these storms have not formed yet. We're basing everything on model guidance and the algorithms that control this. So still 90 degrees in Huntsville and Coleman and Decatur. A very hot atmosphere ahead of this. So high winds coming through. Notice the Boeing segment here around 525. Keep in mind this could be later, it could be a little earlier. Temperatures really crashing behind this. However, they'll recover fairly quickly, as you'll see here in a few minutes. As we continue on, by 6:15, 7 o'clock, we start to see this exiting the state, and then the atmosphere kind of recharges. There's some wind energy coming in, and that's the reason you see this play out here north of Florence. That may not happen, and I'll show you why in just a second. Higher confidence, this line will be showing up at some point 1, 2, 3 in the morning. And this is an overnight event here with these storms coming in. And the trend here is really not good for the overnight hours. So let's take a look as we go forward in time. Notice our temperatures are still in the 70s ahead of this. So this is going to primarily be a wind and embedded tornado risk here with, of course, the flooding and the heavy rain. And that kind of takes us into the morning commute. Severe weather threat should be gone by 5 or 6 in the morning here Thursday, but we still have issues with a lot of water, and that's going to cause some issues out there on area roads, especially some of those communities, the rural communities where you have low water bridges, things like that. So flooding will be a concern there. Now let's talk low-level jet. Before, the previous video I had was showing all of this activity pretty much diving over here and going this way. Not the case. It's basically coming right towards us. And the reason, this is with the overnight storms, the reason the low-level jet's important is because it's really one of the big driving factors of this severe weather potential. This is why you saw that area of rain around 1 in the morning. Lawrenceburg, Hohenwald, it's got this little jet streak kind of coming through here. That may not happen. But again, the idea here is of intense winds with this low-level jet coming in, intensifying, 63 mile per hour low-level jet in the summertime. That's pretty wild. So this is going to cause this line of thunderstorms to bow out, and it doesn't necessarily need as much instability because it has higher wind shear. And notice as this continues to pretty much rake across North Alabama and southern Middle Tennessee, in this area of heightened concern, 60 mile per hour. Again, this is 4,000 feet in the air, and it does translate to the ground with damaging winds and bowing segments. And when you get this line echo wave pattern, it can cause these spin-up tornadoes too. Notice it just continues to churn here early in the morning. This is around 5 a.m. And again, this is strictly model data I'm showing you. As we get to the CAPE, the convective available potential energy, what we'll watch here is that there's that boundary down here. This is the frontal boundary, and it's going to be lifting northeast, and the upper level winds are kind of rocking in from the northwest. So the problem here is you get wind shear along this leading edge of the line. So as we go forward, you'll see this highly caped energy here colliding with this from Russellville to Florence. So we could have these individual supercells out there. So we do need to watch for that. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the fact that it's showing up in the model guidance is concerning. So that's round 1. Out of here by 7 o'clock. Notice the second round coming in. The CAPE starts coming back up fairly quickly here by 11 o'clock. And here comes the line of storms. What you're seeing here, these other areas, we typically don't see that until the springtime. These are helicity index tracks. Basically, this is where the atmosphere in the model guidance says there's some spin going on. And this probably won't get tapped into over here, northeast of Fort Payne, but the area over here moving into northwest Alabama, that's a big concern within this line to continue these line echo wave pattern features that typically you get these eddies, we call them in science, areas of possible tornadoes and rotation within the line. So eventually this just kind of lays out around 5 or 6 in the morning Thursday and creates problems with too much rain. So I think this eventually becomes a flooding problem along a boundary that'll temporarily stall before making it all the way to the south. As we go through the rest of your Thursday, as we get later into the day, that energy returns, but that instability, as far as the dynamics, I want to call it, the storm potential goes down. This is our tornado threat we'll watch here. This is the energy helicity index. The problem is when it gets above 1, it can support tornado potential. We're well above that. So that's a big concern. And these aren't always precursors to tornadoes, but they're always precursors to severe weather when you get these numbers here. Again, this is overnight. This is 3 o'clock in the morning, still high shear values here. So if this were to come to bear, we would have a tornado watch at the very least overnight into Thursday morning. Probably more of a severe thunderstorm watch for Thursday afternoon. So again, stay weather alert. This pattern keeps repeating itself, and hopefully it's about done. Usually August is very, very quiet unless we get a tropical system. So keep checking back here. We'll keep you up to date.